For decades, the skies above our planet have been watched by some of the most advanced detection systems ever built. From NASA's deep space arrays to the United States NORAD surveillance grid, every object larger than a baseball is tracked, cataloged, and analyzed. Satellites, debris, meteors, even classified military equipment. Everything has a signature. Everything has a pattern. Everything behaves according to the laws of physics, until something didn't. This story begins in 2014, when a routine NORAD scan detected an unidentified object in low Earth orbit, about 600 kilometers above the Pacific Ocean. At first, analysts thought it was just space debris, maybe a discarded satellite fragment or an unreported launch. But this object behaved in a way that no natural or human-made object ever should. It was completely silent. It had no transponder, no thermal signature, and no detectable propulsion system. It just appeared, like a shadow carved out of the vacuum of space, and its movements were unnatural. Most orbiting debris travels in predictable arcs, pulled by gravity, but this object adjusted its trajectory exactly 11 times in the first 6 hours, without any signs of thrust. Each movement was precise, intentional, and controlled, almost as if it was reacting to being watched. NORAD confirmed it wasn't a malfunction. 3 separate radar systems captured the exact same bizarre movements. That's when NASA got involved. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory tried to analyze the object's surface using long-range spectral analysis, and what they found confused every single expert. The object wasn't reflecting sunlight like metal or rock. It was absorbing it completely. It seemed to swallow electromagnetic radiation across multiple wavelengths, which made it nearly invisible unless hit at a very specific angle. It was clearly technological far beyond anything publicly known and engineered for extreme stealth. But the strangest detail came when NASA tried to ping the object with a low-power communication pulse. The pulse bounced back, but it wasn't an echo. It was a response. The return signal showed structured patterns, almost like data packets, repeating in sequences that looked like a language. One NASA engineer later described it anonymously as not a reflection, but an acknowledgement. At East Point U.S. Strategic Command classified the entire event. More than 40 hours of radar logs were sealed. The object was now officially designated UCT-114, Unknown Controlled Target. But what happened next pushed the situation from unusual into deeply unsettling territory. The object began to mirror the International Space Station. Whenever the ISS adjusted its position, this unknown craft would subtly alter its own path to keep a constant distance from it. It was like it was observing, studying, or maybe even protecting itself from the station's activity. The astronauts on board were never told, at least not publicly, but internal NASA memos suggest that cameras on the ISS captured faint black silhouettes drifting in the distance, moving in ways that defied orbital physics. And then, 3 days later, it vanished. It didn't decay from orbit, it didn't orbit, and it wasn't destroyed. It simply disappeared from every detection system simultaneously. NORAD, radars, NASA, tracking stations, European Space Agency telescopes. Every sensor lost it in the exact same second. There was no flash, no signal, no dispersion. It was as if the object just stepped out of existence. Before we continue with what happened next, if you're enjoying this investigation and want more stories like this, based on real classified reports, make sure to subscribe and join the community we're building around this channel. It truly helps me keep these deep dive documentaries coming. Now, here's where the story gets even stranger. 6 weeks after the disappearance, a new signal was received, this time from outside Earth's orbit. A rhythmic pulse came from beyond the moon, repeating at intervals, identical to the strange return signal NASA had documented earlier. The frequency was too specific to be natural, too patterned to be random, and too familiar to ignore. The signal was triangulated to a point just beyond the far side of the moon, an area famously shielded from Earth's S-radio interference. NASA requested cooperation from the Deep Space Network, and soon the signal was being analyzed. The results were classified within 24 hours. All public logs from that day show an 8-hour blackout, with all the data manually redacted. What we don't know, based on leaks from multiple aerospace contractors, is that the pattern being transmitted appeared to be mathematical. It contained prime numbers embedded within modulated frequencies, similar to our own early attempts at interstellar communication. But this wasn't humans. It was the same Entator intelligence that had been orbiting Earth just weeks before. Documents from insiders, declassified years later, describe the signal as responsive, aware, and reactive to monitoring. When analysts changed their receiving settings, the signal changed to mirroring their adjustments in real time. One whistleblower described it chillingly. "We weren't observing it. It was observing us. Observing it." NASA and NORAD were no longer dealing with a passive object, but an active intelligence, something capable of stealth, communication, and apparently interstellar relocation. The question was no longer what it was, but why it was here. In the months that followed, smaller anomalies were reported by amateur radio astronomers, faint, short-duration pulses across frequencies normally used for deep space mapping. Each one was nearly identical to the classified signal. Each one contained the same prime number sequences, and slowly a theory began to form. The object hadn't come to attack, invade, or interfere. It had come to map us just as we map the skies for signs of life. A probe, a watcher, a presence that is older and far more advanced than anything on Earth. Some believe these events represent the first documented contact with a non-human intelligence. Others argue it was a classified military test, hidden to maintain technological superiority. But every expert agrees on one point. Nothing humankind has ever built behaves, moves, or communicates the way this object did. And the most unsettling detail, according to a leaked fragment of a NORAD report, the final note attached to UCT-114, simply reads, "Object left observational perimeter. Destination unknown. Activity likely to return before you go." Drop a comment below. Do you believe this was an extraterrestrial probe or a hidden military experiment? And if you want more deep investigations into real, unexplained encounters, don't forget to subscribe. New episodes are coming very soon.